Friends, today I'm going to narrate the story of Patacara, who was one of the leading bhikkhunis during the Buddha's times. She was foremost in terms of the Vinaya rules for the order of nuns. Let's get into the story. Patacara, which was a later name of hers, her earlier name was Rupavati, was born in a very wealthy family. Her father was a treasurer and a very wealthy banker in Shravasti in Uttar Pradesh. She grew up along with her brother with all luxuries. They had lots of servants in the house and she was not lacking in anything. When she was around 6 or 7 years, there was a boy from the neighboring village who used to come and play with Rupavati and her brother, and they started being childhood friends. And when Rupavati was around 16 years of age, she was very, very beautiful. She continued to play with her childhood friend, and when her parents started looking out for an alliance for her, they found somebody who is equally suitable in terms of status. But Patacara had already lost her heart. Rupavati had already lost her heart to this young boy who was her childhood friend. He belonged to a very, very poor family, but she wanted to just marry him. So, without informing her parents and taking a little bit of her own personal jewelry, she left the house at midnight and she met her lover at the city gates. They walked for 3 days and reached his village. They set up house, they were very, very happy together. After a year or so, she was pregnant. And when she was pregnant and about to deliver, suddenly the urge to meet her mother came into her mind. She started telling her husband, "My lord, I want to go and meet my mother." He said, "Definitely, I'll take you." The next day again she said, "I want to meet my mother." He said, "Definitely, I will take you. Let us do that." But the time had passed and she was frustrated and she was about to deliver. She decided that when her husband went to work, she decided that I'm going to go and meet my parents, come what may. I want to see my mother. When she just got out of the house, on the road itself, she delivered because she was pregnant. And her husband, when he came to know, he immediately brought her home, and then she got busy with her household duties. And the urge to see her parents became less. Within a year, again she became pregnant. Again that urge to go meet her parents came in because she wanted her mother to meet her young boy and she wanted the delivery to happen at her mummy's place. So, and the rainy season had just started, so she requested her husband. As usual, he was not ready to take her there because she was at an advanced stage of pregnancy. She did not agree and she decided to leave the house. It was raining badly and he ran after her husband, and then she told, "I am just about to deliver." And he took some firewood, and in that rain he built a big kind of a dwelling for her, and she delivered there with her young son there. Throughout the night it was raining. Her husband went out. He said, "I'll get some firewood so that I can cook something for you." In the morning, since she was very, very tired from childbirth, she decided to go out and see where her husband was. And with her young boy who was just born and the young son who was there, she set out and she went at the outskirts of the village and she saw that her husband was bitten by a snake. She started wailing and crying. She didn't know what is to be done. She decided now is the time that I have to go meet my parents. She decided to go. She walked. There was a shortcut to go to Shravasti via the Achiravati river, which was there, but it was full because of the rains. She had her young boy in one hand and the other child wrapped around her body, and she couldn't take both the children. She couldn't swim with both the children. So she decided I will just take one child at a time. She decided to cross slowly with whatever energy she had. She crossed to the other side and she put that small child on the grass which was there, and she started coming to the other side where she had left the other son, and she decided to go. When she just saw, she was in the middle of the river, she just saw on the other side where her newborn was there was a hawk which was flying over the child. She got so scared. She said, the hawk will take my child. So she started loudly shouting, loudly waving, "Su, su, su, su." She just decided to do this way. But the hawk, being what it is, just saw the flesh of the child, and it took the child and went away. She couldn't understand what was happening. She couldn't cry also. She was so devastated because the other son, she turned her face to see the other son. The son, small child, felt that mother is waving out to her, and the child also came into the river, coming after the mother, and got washed away in the river. Poor Rupavati didn't know what is to be done. She was totally devastated. Absolutely, her son, 2 sons had gone within a fraction of a second, and her husband had already died. She decided to cross to the other shore. She just had her parents and she couldn't. She was weeping and inconsolably. She saw a person who was walking there, and she just said, are you from Savatthi? So he said, yes. So can you direct me, because it's been a time since I have, so can you tell me? He said, whose house are you going? Well, I'm going to the treasurer and the treasurer's daughter. He said, ask about anybody else in Savatthi but the treasurer's family. So she asked, why? What happened? They said it was raining very heavily and the house fell down, and the treasurer, his wife and his son all died. If you can see far away, there's a smoke coming. It's their funeral pyre there. Poor Rupavati, we can't imagine the plight. She had lost her husband, her 2 sons, and her parents and her brother. I can imagine the plight she was. She really started grabbing her, pulling her hair, and she had lost her entire senses. She did not even remember that she had clothes on, and she was moving like a mad woman on the streets of Savatthi. Many people saw her and thought she's a mad woman, and people started throwing stones at her. She didn't know. She just was running here and there, helter and skelter. She didn't know what is to be done. She went to the outskirts of Savatthi at the Jeta's Grove, where the Buddha was in residence, because it was a rainy season, so he was there at Jeta's Grove. And people at the monastery were listening to his discourse. The Buddha saw her from afar, but the people at the monastery at the gate, they did not allow her. He instructed some of the monks to call the lady inside, because he could understand that the lady had lost her senses, but he also, from his knowledge of the mind, he understood that the lady had great insight. So once the lady came there, but she was still wailing, it was absolutely inconsolable. So with his voice, the Buddha just told, "Sister, come to your senses." With the Buddha's voice and the entire aura of the Buddha, Patacara immediately came back to her senses, and she started telling the Buddha the entire story about how she lost her husband, her family, her sons, and she said, they have died, I don't know what is to be done. Suddenly she remembered that she didn't have any clothes on. There was a person from the monks who threw a cloak at her, and her name became Patacara, because Pata means wearing a cloth and Chara is she wore it. The Buddha heard her and told her, we all have to die one day. And this is the verse that he said to her, no children will be a refuge, nor any relations at all. The one who is taken by death will find no shelter among kin. Knowing this, understanding this, the wise one, restrained by virtue, quickly clears the obstacles on the path that leads to wisdom, leads to freedom. Hearing these words, Patacara slowly started realizing, and she reached the first level of sanctification. She prostrated before the Buddha and she was ordained to be a nun, who is also known as Theri. She started reflecting and having lots of insights. One fine day, when she was seen, she was just washing some utensils, and she saw that water which she threw was going for a small distance. Then she threw some more water. It went still little further. Then she threw some more water and she saw that it went little more distance. Then she saw that the small way that the water had cleared must be the way for her sons. The longer way was for her husband and her brother, and still longer way was for her parents. So each person has their own way, their own life written. She started understanding impermanence, and she realized the highest level of sainthood, and she became the Arhat. She became inspiration for many nuns. Many theories got a lot of stories and a lot of discourses from her, and she became the leading theory for the Vinaya rules. When I look at this story, being a woman myself, I realize a lot of things. The amount of sorrow that she went through, but also realizing the impermanence. Each of us, I feel, dear friends, should realize that time is very short, and we should do whatever worthwhile to clear our way towards whatever that we seek in life. Life is very, very impermanent. I leave it to you to come out with your own objects, with your own views about the same. Thank you.